Welcome. Critical Analytics, a new possible daily program analyzing the news, current events of the day. A critical analysis. So we're going to start out today. This is our debut and see how we go. Let's see. Give me a few seconds here, brothers and sisters. I'm new to this. Let's see. A couple seconds here. Okay. Let's see if this is working. Okay, a few seconds. Okay. Okay, that seems to be working. One more thing. One more thing. One more thing here. Okay, let's make sure get every place. Let's see. Okay. Get every place. All right. This is online, so here we go. Okay, let me check one more thing here. Okay, so let's proceed, brothers and sisters. Did I do this incorrectly? Okay, brothers and sisters, we're going to look at today. Today is June 16th. We see a few things happening today. The big issue today is the meeting between Mr. Putin and Mr. Biden. So let's look at that from a critical analytic point of view. You know, a lot of things don't add up. We have a country over there called Russia, led by a president called Mr. Putin. You have a country over here, supposedly led by Mr. Biden. They both are armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons, armed to the teeth. But the mathematics don't add up. Because if I have a gun to your head and you have a gun to my head, and I'm telling you how it is and what you need to do, does that make any sense? Does that make any sense at all? Something's not right with that equation. They call it mutually assured destruction. In other words, everyone's afraid to use their nuclear weapons because they figure if they use it, they'll be destroyed in the process. Okay, let's look at that. If the former Soviet Union, Russia, tells America, hey, look, if you keep pushing me around, I'm going to go to nuclear war with you. Doesn't that fall into the mad theory, mutual assured destruction? That's what it's called, a mad theory. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But that's what's going on. And America seems to feel it has the right to tell everyone what to do. But what was interesting is everybody's kicking back because they're challenging them, saying, well, you got these human rights issues. You know, all these human rights issues. And he fires back, Mr. Putin fires back, but don't you? See, the world is insane because the most abuser of human rights is here in America. Got a history of it, undeniable history of it. Yet they're always pointing the finger at everyone else. You got human rights issues. You got human rights issues. You got human rights issues. You treating these people badly. You doing this. When they're occupying a whole nation, they don't want you to think that way. Say, oh no, we're citizens of America. We didn't ask to come over here. We're a nation. We want to rule ourselves. You know, that's the same argument that the British made against India when Mahatma Gandhi came along. I mean, they was citizens of the British Empire. He said, wait, no. We are our own nation. We want to rule ourselves. See, because they thought that, you know, they had control of everybody. So you became, you became part of their empire. And so America reserves the right to tell us that we're citizens. We didn't ask to be citizens here. We have our own culture. We have our own, but they force us into their culture, their nature, and they say, and then imprison us when we don't want to conform to their ways, their customs, their so-called culture. You see, because that's what happens. See, they have criminalized our whole nation. It's criminalized it. Because if you have dogs and cats together, and the dogs are ruling, then the cats are criminal by nature because they're gonna act they're not act according to the dog's rules because it's against their nature. So they're criminals that's what we're criminalized by nature. They're criminalized by nature Because if you act according to nature, right, then you're criminal. But if you have to act against your nature, that means we're oppressed. Those type of arguments, they're not going to ever hear. You're never going to hear that here. And one of the primary reasons you're never going to hear it here is because what they have done is they've infiltrated our nation with their nation in blackface. And so they constantly tell us, no, it should be this way. We should want to love here. We should be here. We should want to love them. You understand? We just accept their culture. But that's destructive to us. If you try to force cats to act like dogs, it's destructive to them. There's no, we're not the same. We've been here 400 years and we're still different from them. After 400 years, it should be no difference. Any difference is met with resistance. That's the purpose of the police force. These things are not going to tell you. This is critical analytics. They're not going to talk to you like that, and they're going to silence any voice that explains this to you. Because your sons and daughters are being imprisoned because they're acting their own nature. Because they're acting out their own nature, they're in prison because they're criminalized because they're acting out their own nature. And then a lot of you are going along with that. So, yeah, well, you go along with that because you bought into it, because you gave up. Because you become a tool of master. Don't tell me you haven't, because you already accept his ideology of subservience. Look on the wall. Whose picture on the wall is that? That's your God. That you're going to serve. No, when you die, you're still going to serve Massa. When you die, you're still going to serve Massa. They got you. And you can't prove any of that stuff. But you got to be nice to Massa here. You got to love no matter how bad he is. So, but wait a minute. Well, if Massa's so good, then why you have to love him if he's bad? And why do you have to? And if somebody's good, why you have to force them to do good? They got you coming and going. And they got your children in a headlock. See, they got you going every elevated place, and most of you are the primary reasons why your children are failing, continue to fail, and will ultimately fail if things will continue like it is, because you're telling them that science and mathematics and reason and logic is not the reason for their success. That's not the path to their success. Their path to success is believing in merit, believing in Master, the God, the Jesus you got on the wall there. That's their reason. That's the only way they're gonna be successful in this world life and to get to heaven. That's their base of success. So why in the world do you need to study? Pray for a good grade. Pray for things to work. You see, just believe, just pray. That's what you're telling them. But you don't want to hear that because you got a screen like in a computer, so you have a thing called a compiler. And that compiler screens any information that comes into the computer to make sure the computer only receives the kind of information, so you don't want to corrupt the way that computer thinks. So if you can't when you put information in, the guy goes to that compiler, the compiler examines it. See? Examines it. That's what it is. It examines it. And they say, okay, I'm going to let this through. I'm going to reject this. So they got you going. As soon as you say something about Jesus, boom, that's rejected. Because some of you listen, you just turned off. You about to turn. If you haven't turned off already, you're about to. Yet you have no basis in reality, nothing, no facts, anything to prove that stuff. But they got that compiler, right? And who is putting that compiler in your children's brain? You are. They gave it to you and you pass it down. But Master don't have to do it anymore. They got you doing it. They got you enslaving your children. You the one freezing their brains. You the one stand in the way of their success. Because you teach them success is not based on logic, mathematics, reason, and logic. Because because religion is their primary, that's all of it. Got them in church every day. That's it. That's the main thing, right? And there's no reason, logic, mathematics, not whatsoever. They ask you a question, shut them down. Don't just believe, just believe. So you're teaching them from their formative years not to think, just believe. So then when they go through life like that, you can't understand. Oh, why you couldn't figure it out? Why you make that mistake and everything? Well, I was just believing in Jesus. You doing that. So you continue doing that, you're destroying yourself. You're destroying yourself and you're cutting yourself off from the life after this. See, you're cutting yourself off because they're not going to make it to the next level. Your seed is going to be stopped dead cold right here. That's what you want to find. Continue. But see, Mr. Putin, he comes back and said, hey, wait. How you point fingers at us? I mean, he had the same situation when the Chinese came. And they all want to mention Black Lives Matter. Not that Black Lives Matter to those people that claim Black Lives Matter. But the point is they use it as a symbol. You got problems right there. You got problems with the way you deal with black people over here. So how you talking about how we doing things? See, because America likes to point fingers all over the place. But America is shit all over the planet. But now, there's no, it's totally covered with their shit. And then they get upset because they want to smell it. That brings into Black Lives, that brings into critical race theory. Oh, listen how they talk about it. That's what we hear, critical analytics. Listen how they talk about it. Oh, you shouldn't train yourself because that's picking wounds. Why picking a wound? Because you saw in division. Wait a minute, hold it. Who caused the wound? Who broke the division? No, see, they did it, but they ain't supposed to talk about it now. Like somebody go out and rob bank, kill people, and then oh man, why y'all bring it up, man? That's old stuff. Why you bring that stuff up, man? Why? That's old stuff. Yeah, but you did it. If you hadn't done it, it wouldn't have came up. You wouldn't have any wounds if you hadn't done it. If you hadn't brought us over here, it wouldn't be a situation. You wouldn't have, because now you're trying to identify us as being the criminals. Because we are criminals in your system, by definition. If we act according to our nature, they say, oh, we're all the same. So that means if we're all the same, there's something wrong with you because you're doing these criminal things. You see, they playing games with your mind. They got you in a belief matrix. They're playing games with your mind, and they got most of you. They got most of you. They're playing games with your mind. They got most of you. Because logic and reason, they've already destroyed that door to your mind. They destroyed it. So I cannot ever penetrate it. Because logic and reason does not have any impact on you whatsoever. None. Has to be Jesus. Has to be believe Jesus. Jesus. That's it. It has to be. If I apply logic and reason, you don't hear it. You don't want to hear it. You ain't going anywhere near it because you can't prove any of that stuff you say you believe in. And where you got it from? You got it from your enemy. And do you really think that this Jesus that you claim that you believe in, this righteous Jesus, will support all the stuff they have done? That he was behind them? So if he was, what problem do you have with Satan? If he's behind genocide, rape, enslavement, theft, stealing other people's lands, impoverishing the whole planet, disease, and if he's behind that, then what the hell you got a problem with Satan for? And those are totally logical statements. Totally logical questions. But you will not hear it. Because the only thing you want to hear is you want that jackass preacher jump. I got blah 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 blah. I got that. I'm speaking in tongues. That's what you want. That's the only thing you're hearing. And you wonder why your children on drugs and everything else. Because you already drugged their minds to begin with. I mean, this guy up there, and he's a total clown. And that's where he gets you. Because they know you like music, because we are musical. So that's why you got in church. Because you want to come in, hey, man, everybody's singing and carrying on. Because nobody's talking logic. Nobody's talking reason. You're not getting that there. None of it. You're not getting it there. But how is this world you living in? How did it come into existence? Did it come into existence because of prayer? It comes in because somebody could speak in tongues. Blah, 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 blah. That guy, did it come in existence like that? Is this computer, iPhone you're looking at, did it come in existence through prayer and speaking in tongues? Or did it come in existence because of mathematics, logic, and reason? Is the world being ruled by prayer and tongues and religion? No, it's ruled by mathematics. Religion is used to control you. See? To keep you thinking. Because if you start thinking mathematically, then you become a. See, in other words, they want to carry weapons. They want you to carry a weapon. Because their weapon is mathematics, reason, logic. And so they disarmed you. You started disarming 35,000 years ago. Now you're totally disarmed. You have been disarmed. Because if your reality is not based on logic, reading, and math, you have been disarmed. Period. See? So some of you about to have a heart attack out there. Oh, he said something about my Jesus. And these demons, they sitting back just laughing at you. Because they made an industry off of you. They made merchandise off of you. These preachers and everything else. I mean, why you got so many churches out there? I mean, why don't these preachers go to other preachers' church? Well, why do you have so many churches? Why? In the same neighborhood, you might have 2 or 3 churches. Why? So in other words, something wrong with that preacher down the street, why don't they just go to that church? Because it's merchandise. It's a sales job. It's a business. It's a business. You see? And so they compete with each other how to drag you in. And so what? And the bottom line is you got to leave some money behind. You got to leave some money behind, or you won't be in that church very long. You got to leave some money behind. And so they can live off of it. That's the bottom line. And tell me I'm lying. It's always been the bottom line. They bring you in there, they give you a performance, a howl and everything. You claim you got the Holy Spirit, right? Okay, if you got the Holy Spirit because that church, and you jump and you can all accept, then what spirit is they get when they go to a Michael Jackson thing? How come they all act the same way? Why are they acting the same way? Oh, why? Because it ain't nothing about that church. It's about the band and the chorus and all that stuff. Ain't nothing about, and the preacher getting you all excited. He getting a performance. That's what it's about. It had nothing to do with logic, reason, and God, and anything else. It has all to do about the atmosphere of it. That's what all got about. Because you go to these rock concerts and they got the Holy Spirit, just as much Holy Spirit as you got. But you don't want to hear any of that. And that's the thing what's going on. It's critical race theory. What's wrong with critical race theory? See? Let's look at that. What is that all about? In general, right? And on the surface, all they're doing is referring to European history. That's what they're doing. I mean, they, making comments and things about it. But the bottom line is they're repeating European history. And they say, oh, well, we don't want our kids taught that. But they claim they've been teaching all the time. That's a lie. Because when I was a child, they wasn't teaching it. They taught about Roman history, Greek history, and everything else. They wasn't teaching about that. When they got around to African history, that lasted about 4 or 5 minutes, and all the black people was hiding under their desks because they were so ashamed. Because we was living in huts over there with bones on our nose, and we had no contribution to history whatsoever. None. Even their so-called educated president, what was the word? What they call a Quaker? He's supposed to have been liberal. I mean, a Quaker, right? He's supposed to be for black folks. They claim, Mr. Nixon. He said black folks had never made any contribution to history. And the whole universe is our contribution. And they are our contribution, unfortunately for us. That's why I said God, at some point, he said he even made man, made Yaakov's creation. He created it. And we at that point now, we got to get rid of them. You see, that's why he came with the flesh. What the flood was all about. Says he regret he even made him. But no, we have no place. He's supposed to be educated, but he said that's kind of stuff he said. A lot of the reason why they didn't show those tapes because they didn't want people to know what he was actually saying because he was foolish enough to record all that stuff that they were saying in the background. That's why they didn't want it because he was revealing top secret information or national. Well, it was national security in a way because they didn't want you to wake up, find out how they really think about you. And believe me, you definitely don't want to hear these Democrats in their private conversation. But that was some of you wouldn't care anyway. See, because some of us like little dogs, right? You tell the dog, you better put him to sleep, put him down. He's wagging his tail, licking you because he doesn't know what you're talking about. You get ready to kill him. That's what they're doing to us. Democratic Party killing your children, abortion, over 22 million already. And you right down with them. You can understand. In the so-called democracy that you believe in, this democracy that you claim you believe in, right? The whole power of democracy is majority rules, right? So if anybody wanted to take and attack you in democracy, what would they attack? They would attack your reproductive capability to keep you down because that's the way you attack in a democracy. You keep the people you want to control the minority. That's the idea. I mean, that's critical analytics. That's the weapon you use in democracy. And and they even tell you, Margaret Sanger, she was the one that started Planned Parenthood. She said that was the whole purpose of it, to keep our population down. Because if you become the majority, then you rule. So they're gonna make sure you stay. And who is the party pushing that 24/7, 365, 400 years? The Democratic Party. And they've already killed. If those 22 million that they've already aborted was alive now, you would have more power in America than you have, right? Than you can imagine, right? And you probably might even be the majority, because they would have had children too. But you're still with these people, and that is the look. If that is the most fundamental way of attacking you in a democracy, and that's what they're doing. And they got you on board, helping you destroy yourself. You go into the vote, but before you vote, you stop at the Planned Parenthood thing and get rid of one of your votes right there. So you might as well not have voted. This is totally logical, brothers and sisters. If you're in a democracy, what is the primary weapon in democracy against those that you hate? Keep their population down. That's the most effective weapon, because the whole idea of democracy is the majority rule. So to keep your population down, period. And that's the way they do abortion. It tells you in scripture that's what they would do. So because you become too populated, you become stronger than them. So let's kill their children. Let's abort them. I don't know how many ways to tell you, but the point is like I said, it says Jesus, Prophet, Muhammad, all of them. They said they came with clear arguments. They didn't come with clear prayer. They came with clear arguments. That's logic and reason, but it didn't matter to you. So the point is, that means you're either incapable of logic and reason, right? That means you don't have the ability for it, or, right, it's been removed from you, been dumbed down. So you got a problem. Because it's logic and reason, that's going to get you out of it. They tell you, oh, in the Bible, oh, well, you just got to believe in the Holy Spirit. You're going to tell you what it means. Really, do you know what it means? They tell all kinds of garbage like that. They can say it because once they get you in the belief makers, they don't have to prove anything. That's just appeal to your emotions. Because once they reduce you to the emotional level, all they got to do is appeal to their emotions. That's all they have to do. And that means anything. Just don't upset you. Just don't upset you. upset you. And try to keep this down to half an hour, brothers and sisters, if I can. Critical analytics. That's what we're doing here. Just looking at current events, how they make sense. Because nothing adds up. Why? Because it doesn't add up because there's no mathematics to add up. Because you have to think mathematically. And everything that you know, see around you, show me one thing around you that's real, that's not mathematics. Show me one thing, just one thing. Show me one thing that's driven off of prayer, off of belief. Show me one engine, one car, whatever. After, you got how many, 4 or 5 billion people on the planet right now? It's that a miracle should occur somehow, a miracle that's everybody could recognize. No such thing. A car that, hey, they ran out of gas but still go, oh man, my car ran out of gas and it still was for 4 or 5 days, man. I just prayed it kept on going. That hasn't happened. And it won't happen. See? Because they just tell you that and you believe it. Everything is mathematics. When they plan their wars, it's mathematics. Their weapons are mathematics. The food you eat came as based on mathematics. You pray for, oh Lord, I'm hungry. I need some food. See? So why don't you pray for prayer food? So, you want to pray for something substantial. You want something substantial now. See? But using an unsubstantial method to achieve it. And you got all these so-called religions all over the world. And they all believe in different things. A lot of them totally contrary to what you say you believe. But yet still they bear with the same thing. They were sick and Shiva healed them. Buddha healed them. Whatever. They was poor and they ran some money. They got hit a lottery or something. So what's the difference between, I mean, it seems like if that's God's doing it, then it must be a competition between the gods because they seem to be working too. Critical analytics, brothers and sisters. But you come face to face with it in a minute. See, because you can afford belief matrix. See, when you're laying around, you're being fed. See, you're not gonna be able to afford too much longer. America's not gonna be able to afford too much longer. See, because America's bankrupt, but you're not gonna be able to afford too much longer. See, because they're not gonna be able to afford to feed you that. See, because I remind this lady, she was obese, she got sick, and she had like 30, 40 cats. And she couldn't get out of bed to feed them. I guess you know how that story ended. So they're not gonna be able to keep feeding you. See, as long as they feed you food, getting your shitlings, and getting your car. So you're still in the plantation, but you don't want to accept that either. But as long as they keep giving you those things, then you buy their beliefs. You buy it. See? Because that's the price that you pay for getting those things that you think they're giving you. You see? But when those things run out, see, then you turn. So you're not going to listen to that anymore. You ain't be caring about NFL, NBA when there's no food. See, you're not going to be praying to Jesus, you understand, when your children are starving and you need to feed them. You're not going to be doing that. And I'm saying, hey, let's pray for some food. You're not going to be doing that. See, You gonna get real then. You gonna real, yo. You feel me? Gonna feel me then. As the choir says, you understand? when they get stamp alert when they begin to feel our presence. You feel me? That's about to happen, brothers and sisters. And we ain't talking about years more. We talking about in days, few days. America's going to war. A war they're going to lose. They're going all over the world. Elijah Muhammad said they've been going all over the world seeking friendships and everything because they're in trouble. America's technically bankrupt. Only reason why America has not collapsed because like you in the old Wild West and you the baddest dude in town, you shoot the sharp, you the fastest draw in the town. Everybody's scared of you, so you go and borrow from every store you want to. They ain't gonna make you pay up. I want to borrow some food. Okay, I want to borrow some drinks. You ain't gonna refuse them because you know what the result is gonna be. See, and so America's economy is backed not by dollars, it's backed by its military power. It's not by dollars anymore because they totally in debt. They bankrupt. People scared of them. But now the problem is that this is current events again, right? China, who's been bankrolling America, has become very powerful. And so at some point they can say, hey, like another guy, he's out there, he used the fastest gun in the West, right? But now he got this store and he got set out there, he's practicing. Now he become real fast. Then you walk in one day, say, hey man, come here, son. That's the end of that. You ain't borrowing anything from that store no more. So you eating anymore. So now you starving. But you can't borrow anymore from home foods anymore. And that's what happened to China. And there's a critical analysis on that. See, you don't understand what's going on, brothers and sisters. See, one day we get into more mathematics of it. But how did China get so powerful? For two reasons. The Democratic Party primarily, right? And they agreed. Because China was a basket case 40, 50 years ago. When Elijah Muhammad came on the scene, he was preaching about China was a basket. There wasn't even nuclear power. See? But Elijah Muhammad's appearance on the scene shook the world. It shook them. Because the whole world changed. You had two major changes in the world. The president Elijah Muhammad, right, after Farad raised him up, and 1990, when Suleiman came on the scene having broken the seals. There were two major earthquakes. And when he came and said that we are true seed of Abraham, because we had no knowledge who he was. We had no knowledge who was gone. They took everything from us. Took our land, our identity, our minds. We said that, and it was catching on. They had to stop that narrative. So what? Up come false Israel out of nowhere. It was going up in smoke a few days earlier. All of a sudden, everybody loves it because they had to counter the narrative. We could not be possibly sued because that would destroy their whole narrative. They're good people and all this stuff. So they had to do that. See? And then China. See? Because you had abortion, but you also had to keep us economically weak. So all of a sudden you had this big industrial revolution, right? That means they had to put people to work to fuel this economy. That means they would have to put us to work because they claimed they weren't slaves anymore, so they had to pay us and things. And they didn't want you to have economic power, and they didn't want you to have political power. Political power means, right, numbers, reproducing, population. Economic power is you working, they depend on your work, so they got to pay you. Unless they want to stick you back in the fields again, right? But that's not see, they couldn't do that because now so you had plantations became plants. So now it's industrial, so they had to work in the factories. See, now in the fields, not in the fields anymore. So they don't want to give that to you because they saw the threat. Because if you got economic power, you might start thinking, right? And then you reproduce more. Next thing you know, you got them by the balls, right? Economic power and political power, because you reproducing faster than they will reproduce faster than they do. So they sent all Abortion, they push it hard. Roe v. Wade and everything, they push it hard, got that locked down. And then they send all your jobs over to China. Now, where all those jobs, they said, remember, Detroit became a basket case. Detroit was like an economic mecca for black folks, especially with the auto industry. Now, Detroit is a basket case. Because they sent all the jobs over there because they didn't want you to have them. And it backfired because now China became powerful and rich. Now, what if you had that economic power and had also, and there wasn't abortion, do you know what would happen right now in America? You would have had control of it. You had economic power like you would imagine. The children would be in jail, and your population in America, what you say, 34 million now? You'd be over 100 million. You'd be over 100 million right now. What if there's 100 million black folks in America? And your economic power. Do you see? They see it. Don't you think they understand this? Don't you think they look at this? Don't they think they're stupid people? You don't think they look at this? They say, oh, no, we're not going to let that happen. Because they might want to get revenge. That's what's said in the thing. It says they might side with the enemy and flee the country, go turn back on us and then flee the country. Because we got a beef with them. And then all of us ain't forgetting. And so they want to keep you down. The numbers down, abortion, who's pushing Democrat, who sent the jobs overseas, Democratic Party, bam, and they push it over there. And that who wants to bring immigrant people across the border? Whose jobs you think they're taking? Whose jobs you think they're taking when they come across the border? So they made China a powerhouse. But China ain't forgot what they did to them. So China's pushing back. So now they not contemplating, but they preparing for war against China. They prepared for quite some time. They did that to keep you down. See? And while you're sitting around watching NBA, NFL, they closed in on you. And it tells you, all you're not going to be saved. Because the statement was, my people are lost for lack of knowledge. That means a lot of you will be lost. Because we cannot penetrate with logic and reason. Because everything I say is totally logical, totally reasonable. Everything. Everything I say is totally logical, totally reasonable. Everything. Excuse me a second. Everything I say is totally logical, totally reasonable. Critical analytics. But you ain't hearing it. But they get on TV and say all kinds of stuff. Well, we can't be critical race theory. We should stop teaching that to our children. You've been teaching it to your children for 40 years. The reverse, that we evil, that we wicked, that we here because sin. You got Farrakhan, right? Mr. Farrakhan, he's supporting that because you ain't paying attention. Those of you that so-called you follow him, you need a little critical analytics. After Elijah Muhammad, you should not have a problem with any of this. Because he taught you to think, he told you Islam is mathematics and mathematics Islam. That means you should be thinking mathematically. You should apply mathematical thinking to everything that you do. But you're not with him. You're not with him. Because he's telling you, we ain't going nowhere. But we treat Abraham seed, and so he called Allah a liar, and we're not going where we're going to stay here. But he says America's going to be burned up. So if America be burned up, then what, they're going to have a safe space for us here? Nothing he says makes any sense. Nothing. Because he's with them. And he's telling we're evil. We came over here because we were sinful. And you don't do our analysis on that? If we came over here because we were sinful and God is punishing us, America's off the hook. Because there's wardens. There's prison guards. They're doing God's work. They're imprisoning us. Because we're evil people. So that means nothing wrong with them. They're just doing their job. So we're the evil people. And all the nations are glad, happy, because America is the prison that's keeping us from bombing any place else, because they don't want you no place in the world, because we're evil people. We're sinful people. That's what Farrakhan's telling you. He's not telling you what Farrakhan taught. Farrakhan said we was righteous people. He said, no, we're over here because we were sinful, because he's pushing their program, because he's taking them off the hook. So that means they're good people. See? But they won't say that openly. Oh, well, that's the original sin of America, slavery and everything. They can't say it openly. See? They got all kinds of ways to tell you nothing. Evolution. And you right on board with evolution. So we're going to cut this in a second, brothers and sisters. But you right on board with evolution. What does it have to do with today? It has everything to do with today because it's where you perceive yourself. Because they'll come and tell you that evolution, you understand how evolution works? The last is the best because you're evolving, right? So the last stage of evolution, last is the best stage because you evolve and you're getting better, right? So in other words, you know, you move, you move to, we're better than apes because we evolved, we kept evolving. Apes stopped evolving. So that we call them animals. We call things that don't evolve anymore animals. So you don't understand technical terms behind this. Things, that's what animals are. Things that don't evolve anymore. They stop evolving. Because remember, basically what they were saying, we was dogs at one time. Basically what they were saying, we was lions at one time. Basically what they were saying, we was fish at one time. See, but now those things stopped evolving, so we kept on evolving. So now we're evolving to be humans. See? And so then they come and tell you, yeah, but we all came from black people. But they also tell you we all came from apes, don't they? Don't they tell you we all came from apes? Don't they tell you that? So that should make the apes happy? So then they tell you, we all came from black people. Did you catch that? Did that get past you? We're still animals. Because we're not evolving anymore. See, they evolved to white people. They evolved to the next grade, white people. See, the society is technical society. They put all everything. See, and we back like Africans. We ain't built anything. See, we still back in Neanderthals. See, because see all this stuff. This is show they evolved, and we haven't. See, so what happened to those in apes that didn't evolve? Right, the apes, right? So they in cages now, right? But they probably our grandparents, great grandparents. But they in cages, ain't they? What do you think they have in store for you? That's what they're telling you. You're an animal. You still have, they got in their constitution. What they got to do to tell you with 3/5 of a man means that means you're not evolving anymore. You're not, because you can say ape is 2/5 of a man, can't you? They got pretty much the same DNA we got. They have pretty much the same structure we got. They got 2 arms, like 5 fingers and everything else, right? So you can say, wait, they're 1/5 of a man, but that means they're not a man. If you're a fraction of something, that means you're not it. And you're buying that. Why? Because these demons that they've taken and procreated that look like you, I call them tar babies, look like you, talk and walk like you, that's their children, but you don't understand that concept either. You don't understand anything. And your children, you can't stand, your children understand mathematics or science because you already told them that's not the road to their success. You need to believe in Jesus, period. So therefore, they're not going out there in the book studying. You take the Jewish people right from the time they come into this world, actually, by the time they start being conception, they start being taught mathematics and science, because they know that's the path to their success. But you opposite, no, Jesus. Don't you talk about, Mom? Why is the God white? Don't you talk about that? You just gotta believe it. So you already shut down his because he asked you a question, you shut down. You don't answer a question, you just believe it. So he's got to go through like believing stuff, not knowing stuff, not calculating, not analyzing stuff. See, so he knows the Europeans are controlling him here, and you tell him when he died, they still gonna control him. They have no hope. That's you telling them. When they die, they're still gonna have control of them. They're still gonna work with Master after they die. That's assuming they work hard for Master here, because they don't. See, they're going down to hell with the red man. See, the red man, he's down here. He get down there. He's a red man down there, probably a black one too. They got you coming and going. That's critical analytics. You're not interested in that. But like I said, in closing, brothers and sisters, see, they only survive as long, right? Like those cats, see, they was these nice little kittens and cats as long as she was able to feed them. Once she wasn't able to feed them anymore, she became the meal. And they're going to tear this country apart if you understand scriptures. Because America's going to war, and this whole economy is going to be turned upside down, inside out. See? And when it does, it says they can eat their own children. That you don't understand. And you're not going to be interested in all that stuff. And most of you are going to be in trouble because you didn't get prepared. Because you should. Elijah Muhammad tried to prepare you economically. He did. And Farrakhan got rid of that. And he still asking you for money for his economic program, but you see he's built anything in the last 42 years, not done anything. He's built for himself, because he's out for himself. $2,000 glasses and pretty little robes and stuff. He walks around smiling. Hey, he ain't doing a damn thing for you, but giving you a lot of yak, and blowing your mind with Scientology and Sunnis and all that kind of stuff. See? And then you got Suleiman, he takes you to the next level. Because it says Elijah will give you form. That's first resurrection. Suleiman will give you spirit. So he's giving you, and you don't want that. So now you're about to run to a brick wall. And we're not talking about long. But you can't say you wouldn't be told. You wasn't told. You're going to run to it 2,021 miles per hour. You're about to run to that wall. You ran the COVID 2,020 miles an hour. You ran that wall, and that was an easy one. Anybody could saw that one. But Farrakhan didn't see it. That's why he's lying about it. 1619, 2019, 400 years. 2020 would be a year of a plague that would kill the firstborn. How can you miss that one? Firstborn is elderly. They said never seen a plague like that. This was targeting the elderly. And then Black Africa was virtually immune to it, but they never told you that. Why do they keep that secret? Because they're telling you, you're dropping like flies over here. Because they got to keep you deceived. Because they can't, because if you look around and say, how come they're not killing black folks over here? That might wake you up. And realize you're the true seed of Abraham. And it's time to go home. They don't want that. So all of a sudden, you're suffering more than anybody else. But yes, still, Black Africa was first untouched. But you was dropping like flies over here. You know, all these demons, right? That's their children. They're black-faced children. They pushing it. T.J. Jakes, man, see? Because he's one of them. All these preachers out here are demons. They're master children. Get your shot. We understood that 100 years ago when we was on the fields. We understood not to trust them because we know the children in the house was master's children. We knew that, and we did not trust them. But so what happened? Something happened. We not trust them because the preacher was master's child. And what the preacher was telling you, be good to master. No matter how bad he treats you, love him. Work hard. See? And then masters, minstrels, right? Come out there and do the minstrel act, all that stuff, on the weekends, right? To keep you from running off. So you work all week because you want to get back, see the minstrel act on, just like you want to see NBA and NFL on the weekend. And you don't really realize you're still on the plantation. Okay, brothers and sisters. I intend, time willing, because I got a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things on my plate. But I do have some brothers and sisters standing with me, their system, and it's greatly appreciated. So I'm going to try to do this once a day, at least during the week. I still have my angel classes I want to do, right? And just my normal presentations. Going full, I'm going 2,021 miles per hour. Because we create time. See? And that means your mind has to be catch up with that. We're trying to get your minds to catch up. Because you want to stay in America, America's about to be burned up. Because they still got your mind locked in America. You reached Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The people were still there when Abraham and Lot, they got the hell out of here because their mind was on time with time. And their minds weren't. They hadn't caught up. See? So when the meteor storm came, they was burned up. Because time moves on. You understand that when Elijah Muhammad, he gave you good, called theology of time. See? I'm taking a step further. I'm giving you science of time. See? Because we're all time travelers. And we create time. So you understand what I mean when I create time? See? Because the future doesn't exist yet. We create it. I'm creating it now. And we got two adversaries creating time, trying to create their future. We got the devil's trying to create this analytical, electronic future, which you have no part. And Master Muhammad and Suleiman is creating, it says make all things new. It's biological. We restore it and build to heights never imagined. That's the two. And both of them are rushing, but they're more aggressive. They shouldn't be, but they're more aggressive because they know their time is running out. They got to achieve it before we wake up. If they achieve it, we're toast. They rush towards the finish line. Look at you. Look around you. All this electronics, they tell you they're destroying the economic system, ecological system, global warming and all that stuff. But they ain't doing anything about it. See, you're not missing everything. Okay, but I'm going to cut this short. But you're missing everything. If someone tells you your house on fire, if they're sitting around watching, NFL is telling you, well, we got to decide. We got to vote whether we're going to call it a fire station or not. Does that add up? This is the planet we live on. They tell you, we got a problem with global warming and everything else, right? We got it. It could mess up the whole population. It could destroy our future. That's what they're telling you, right? They're telling you, and we see evidence all around us of all kinds of corruption, as the Quran said, corruption in the land and the sea, because of what man's hands wrought, not because of mystery God, because of what people are doing. But they say, but they're not doing anything about it, because they got to put it to a vote, and you buying that? If they didn't want that, if they really thought it was critical, it wouldn't be up to a vote. If they didn't want it, it wouldn't be up to a vote. They want it, but they got to give you an excuse for not doing anything, because they plan on going to nuclear war. What do you think nuclear war is going to do? You think nuclear war is going to be any less than what they talk about global warming? It would totally, what they call it, it would just totally destroy the environment. Totally. And that's what they want. So why would they want that? Because they want to bring in their mechanical world. Because they're already at war with this environment. You understand that, bro? They're at war with it. All these diseases and cancer and all that kind of stuff. They're at war because the environment, they're against it. We built a biological creation and they can't, it's against them. They've been fighting it ever since from their creation, disease and climate and everything. They've been fighting because our ecological system is fighting back against them because they're not natural to it. This is an extension of us, but it's against them. And the only way they can survive, they got to get rid of it. They come out of their mechanical world, their cyborg, which is a machine with a biological brain. But that's the only thing they know. That's the only way they can survive. They have to get rid of all this. You see, look at the building. See, look at all their future. Look at all the vision they give you their future. You see any biological stuff in there? Terminator. They got this new one out. This black guy. He's really trying to be a robot. This military thing. They ship all their things in the future is nothing but cities, no biological stuff, anything, electronics, so forth. It's a race. And they have you sitting back, sleep while they race to it, because they got to get to it before we do. Because we restore our biological world, they're toast. If they get their analytical world, we're toast. But they're not telling you that. But they're rushing towards it. Implants, look at all the stuff they're doing. computers, implants, right? Okay, brothers and sisters, hope you understand. So like I said, my intention is to try to continue a daily, I haven't locked in time yet, live critical analysis of today's topics, current events, how I look at it from a mathematical point of view, with critical analytics. Assalamu alaikum.